Welcome once again to Space and Harmony, in Harmonia of Life. Today's theme is especially for those of you interested in knowing yourselves deeper, understanding relations, all the psychotypes that rule society and relationships, and also our inner psyche. Actually, we will see 12 basic psychotypes, which are harmonized by another dimension of conscience, of light, giving a total of 13, as we will see. And this is a very appropriate moment to speak about this because we are coming to the end of the spring equinox, so the days are no longer equal. Light is gaining terrain, and symbolically, on the summer solstice, the sun will be on the zenith of the astrological tropical wheel, in which the ancients represented not only the 12 psychotypes, but also the angles of light that represent consciousness illumining different aspects of the carnal psyche. And this means, symbolically, there is more knowledge and understanding illumined by true light. Actually, very recently, some people celebrated the feast of Shavuot, weeks in Hebrew, which are actually the symbol of the 7 octaves of consciousness that go from coming out from the captivity in darkness, Egypt, to receiving the teaching of light, the Torah, for those who can really understand and receive. In the allegory we see in the Acts of the Apostles, this is exactly the episode when the emissaries, the apostles, receive the Holy Spirit, which is actually a higher degree of consciousness and integrated conscience that allows those who receive it understand the language of nature. They became able to speak in tongues, says the description. This means that by really receiving the light, we are able to understand how the angels or angels of light, the neurotransmitters in this cosmic brain, really work. And that implies also seeing the truth mirrored in ancient myths. Even in the Gospels we can see how the 12 disciples are the 12 psychotypes. And specifically in the book of Mark we can see a reflection of the 13 moons. One moon is double, and they represent the subconscious carnal part, whereas the solar signs represent the spiritual dimension. And just to give you 2 examples, the passage associated with the moon of Taurus is that in which Yeshua tells the parable of the good seed, because in that period of time the oxen are used to plow the fields and plant seeds, because Taurus is associated with plowing the fields and planting seeds. Following that, we find the episode in which Yeshua is on the rear part of the boat, is asleep, while the disciples are afraid because there is a storm, wind. This is a symbol of Gemini on the boat. In ancient times, this was the image, which we can also find in the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 28, where Apostle Paul is traveling on a boat with the Dioscuri, the twins of Gemini, on the prow of the boat. And the twins are the divine spiritual mind, Yeshua would be the symbol, and the carnal psyche, where part of divine light got trapped. So they must come together. This is the reason why Yeshua wakes up from the rear part of the boat, and he, with his I amness, tells the disciples not to be afraid, and he stops the wind with his will. Following that episode, we find that they cross to the other side. So they go to the subconscious and the unconscious, to the land of the Gerasim, where they find the Gerasim demoniac, as it's also described, who is full of unclean spirits, which are all the ego types. And these call themselves Legion because they are many. Actually, the 12 ego psychotypes usually multiply, and they can actually reach a total of 144, 12 multiplied by 12. After that, we are told about the episode in which Yeshua goes to see the daughter of Jairus, and she was supposedly dead, but as the master proved, she was just asleep. Talita Kumi, raised, he told her. Because our carnal psyche is obviously like a zombie, we are living in the land of the dead, but there is some consciousness of life that can be awakened. That would be the feminine side coming to meet the masculine mind, the masculine spiritual aspect. This is the union of the twins. And this means we are in a process of rescuing ourselves, so to speak, because it's our deeper self, our I amness, which is coming to meet the fallen part in the carnal psyche. And as the master said, he who loves his ego soul, his psyche, will lose it, but he who detaches from it for my sake will gain it for eternal life, we may say, even though it's a higher form of life that has nothing to do with the eternal cycle of repetition. We are trying to come out of that and help others. Actually, we can only help ourselves by living with others that mirror the ego psychotypes that traps us. We must know them very well so they don't convert us into zombies or vampires. Actually, the 12 ego psychotypes on their dark side are vampires. Demons, we may say. The word demon comes from the Greek daimon, and as Heraclitus said, the daimon is for humans, their character. So we have a demonic set of characters that hide. Now, how can we understand the structure of the 12 psychotypes? Let's go, for instance, to the tale of Jacob and the 12 tribes. Obviously, Jacob was the father, but he had sons with 4 women, which represent the 4 elements: earth, water, fire, and air. And 2 of them were his twin souls. One leads to the other. There is actually a science about twin souls, but that's for another episode because there are different types described in ancient teachings. And then we have 3 types of souls. For instance, we see that mirrored in Moses, his sister Miriam, and his brother Aaron. A physical type of soul, an emotional type of soul, and mental type of soul. In the Gospels we hear about the 3 pillars of the Nazarene congregation, which would be Simon Stone, Jacob, means translated as James, and John, Johanan, which would be the mental side. When we multiply those types by the 4 elements, then we get the 12. And a very visual way of going through all the types is by visualizing a wheel with 4 quadrants. Each one is subdivided in 3, which are the 3 types. They are usually known as cardinal types, fixed types, and mutable types. And while I describe the 12 ego psychotypes, let's have a walk. The first 4 set of signs would be the cardinal psychotypes, which, as its own name describes, are related to the heart, cardios. And this means they are psychotypes that follow their heart intuition. They usually act before feeling deeply or thinking deeply. And traditionally, the first is Aries, which is a fire sign, very passionate. They usually have courage. The problem is that they love situations that raise the adrenaline. They can be attached to risky sports or anything that generates an excitement of the emotions. Sometimes they can be violent, like a ram using its horns. And this is why they need to be manifesting the I am a cell in the cosmic body of life, expression of the Holy One. And this is what gives us courage and impetus to overcome mechanicalness and the difficulties of life. The next cardinal sign is Cancer, the crab, which is an animal that loves hiding under the muddy waters, which represent gut emotions such as fear or even anger and jealousy. Cancer ego types like hiding themselves in familiar environments with friends and family, and they can be very tenacious defending their own, so they can be vengeful as well. And very usually hiding emotions in the gut leads to digestive problems or even cancer and Crohn's disease, leaky gut. Being a water sign, they are very emotional, and these waters must be boiled a little bit so the impurities go off. Now the next cardinal sign could be Libra, the scales, which speak of a balance. Actually, the Libra psychotypes like establishing balance by means of thinking and establishing also social connections. They can be actually very diplomatic. The problem is that very often they can be judgmental with those who don't fit into their own ideas of justice and social equilibrium. And that's a problem. Justice is blind. Another inconvenient in the Libra psychotype is that they try to find balance with an ideal partner, but as most psychotypes ignore which other psychotypes are compatible, Libras tend to make the wrong choice, what puts them into conflict with their partner, and that's why they become very judgmental with the girlfriend or the boyfriend, the wife or the husband. So Libra must understand that this is not a question of balance, but of marrying first the inner twins so that the true psychotypes can come together and help each other. This is not a question of justice. Looking for justice is very problematic. We are looking for armonia. The next cardinal sign would be Capricorn, which are actually very pragmatic. They are very good using everything at hand. They are like goats jumping on the most difficult rocks, but they can also take whimsy paths. However, they can become obsessed with reaching security by means of handling things, technical situations. And this is a characteristic of workaholics, for instance, people who are obsessed with their job. Now, the following set of signs are the fixed ones, which relate to a rigid mentality, stubborn psychotypes, which are ruled by fixed mental point of view, which sometimes can be useful. However, mental rigidity is also synonymous of lack of flexibility. That would be their dark side. And the first fixed sign is Taurus, the bull, which is linked to materialness. They are very good reaching security in material things, in wealth and health. However, they can become very attached to their properties. They can be a bit whimsy, and very often they get attached to foods or things they believe that are part of their life. Taurus tends to feel, I am because I have. So the light must come by realizing that what we really have is a divine life, and nothing external can make us more than what we really are. The next fixed sign is Leo. Leo is I wished to be seen. They like to shine like the sun. However, this is why in their shadow side they love going shopping or buying clothes. They might be followers of some fashion in order to be recognized, be the focus of attention. And again, they must realize that we can only shine when we are our true essential being. And the following fixed sign is Scorpio, which feels I love contact, close contact, even physical contact. They love hugging, kissing, receiving and giving caresses. But they can be very treacherous because they hide their emotions, fix emotions in the subconscious and the unconscious. And this is an open field for treason. Actually, Scorpio is symbolically associated with the tribe of Judah and Judas Iscariot. The sting of Scorpio pierces us when we least expect it. Then we have another fixed sign, which is Aquarius, and being a near sign is very mental. This psychotype is very idealistic. They strive for humanity. They have very good ideas and intuitions. However, they can easily get caught in imagination, in mental realms. They don't like facing emotions, so they tend to get away from the situations by means of reading books or watching documentaries, even movies. Young Aquarians might get obsessed with video games, always lost in imagination. Therefore, Aquarius must think from the light of conscience and not from imagination. Now then we come to the mutable signs, which obviously are very changing in nature. They are linked to the region of gut feelings or lower emotions. And the first one is Gemini. We are in the month of Gemini actually. And these are the twins, which like to communicate with each other. Unfortunately, the carnal psyche and the spiritual mind are not very often in good rapport. There is no good communication. So Gemini looks for social connections, and they enjoy speaking much about many issues, but in a very superficial way. They change from subject to subject without going to the gist of things. And they also are very changing in personality. Actually, they are a little bit bipolar. They don't see anything wrong in lying to themselves, and by extension, lying to others. This is the problem of playing roles that do not correspond to our essence. And in a way, everyone is affected by the gathering demoniac inside. Legion would be the dark name of Gemini, because they can be many. The next mutable sign is Virgo, the Virgin, which in principle is a motherly and maiden-like type. However, in its shadow side, it can become very picky with order and cleanliness. She might get obsessed with changing things constantly, and this is very annoying for other psychotypes, which obviously must become compassionate and realize why others behave as they behave. Then we have Sagittarius, which is a very passionate, fiery sign. They are always eager to make trips and play games, make fun. They set many goals, but Sagittarius can also become attached to gambling and games and set wrong goals and never reach the goals because of that lack of stability, inner stability. And finally we have Pisces, whose lack of stability belongs to the domain of belief and faith. Pisces changes constantly the point of view. Pisces prefer others to think for them, and they love sleeping because they are asleep. Actually, Pisces is very similar to the word pistis, which means belief in Greek, blind belief. Actually, the moon of Pisces is double because of this duality. So again, they must reach stability by unification inside. And that internal unification, as I said, can only begin with consciousness that must marry the deeper conscience. And this unification is symbolized both by the pure virgin consciousness and also by a hidden psychotype, which is not very well known, is Ophiuchus. In my opinion, Ophiuchus represents the risen Adam, the righteous Adam, because it's symbolized by a man holding a serpent. That is, he is no longer deceived by the serpent, and he can sacrifice the firstborn, the first selfish impulses coming from the carnal psyche. In ancient times, this was symbolized by the sacrifice of rams in spring, such as in Pesach, the Hebrew feast. But those rites were never understood, and it's necessary to go within and realize that the 12 psychotypes can no longer rule us when we incarnate harmonia of conscience. So we become strong like the bull,
opening new paths, as it is done with the help of oxen and bulls ploughing the fields.
passionate like lions defending our ground and others, as well as having a panoramic view like eagles. The man would be the unification of those 3 dimensions. Those 4 creatures are the ones mentioned by the prophet Ezekiel and also in the book of Revelation, because they lead to the true loving man, which is not in a masculine sense, but in the sense of someone with integrated masculine and feminine dimensions of the soul. Actually in Hebrew, love, ahava, has a value of 13, just as unicity, echad. 13 plus 13 make 26, the value of the holy verb, the holy name. And this means that true unconditional love is complete, it's not partial, it's not spiritual love or carnal love. Religion seeks for spiritual things but forgets about nature and the transformation of the psyche. This is why there is so much hatred in religion and bloodshed, as well as in politics and science. Love is fragmented in the domains of culture. But when we illumine love with the 7 lights of our true being, which as you know are I amness that has purpose of giving itself, that would be the divine telos, the divine aim, with the crown of inner mastery, with lucid wisdom that moves away from all evil, lucid understanding which is unveiling all masks and darkness, and finally integrating all that in a pure conscience. Those lights harmonize the famous 6 virtues that became corrupt with the fall of Adam, the first humanity. False mercy, false justice, false beauty, false success, false humility, and false creativity on a false rock. When we are able to turn those virtues, then the 7 lights join the 6, giving the 13 number of true love, which once again is the divine verb, unconditional love that opens a space to the truth of pure life in the calm of harmonia. I hope you enjoyed this video and it was useful for you. Leave any comment if you wish. And until the next time, may true harmonia be with you.